Hello, everyone. So we have a brand new season of Marvel Snap. In the Spotlight caches, we had Thena released, and then in the Season Pass card, we have Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, I want to brew on a little bit further to find something really good that pops for him. I think he fits really well into a Khazar Zoo, a Blue Marvel Zoo style build, but I really want to finesse and find the best home before featuring a deck for him. And so today we're going to be using a Thena Move Disrupt deck. Thena is going to scale every time you play exactly 2 cards, and so this deck typically wants to have a little bit higher end of a curve, something that you can do something and Kitty Pryde every single turn. So we have Elsa Bloodstone that's going to help kind of give us some increased value in our cards. We have Jean Grey to restrict where the opponents can play, and then we can slap those cards out of that lane with something like a Juggernaut into our Craven lane so that we can continue to buff up that card while disrupting exactly where the opponent wants to play. If the opponent decides they want to hide some cards behind, I don't know, an Invisible Woman, we have Stegron to move the Invisible Woman out of that lane and then therefore revealing their cards. We have a little bit of counterplay in the Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi has, for me personally, has gained quite a bit of value, especially with things like Sasquatch being above that Shang-Chi limit, and with things like Leech being much less prevalent in the current metagame. As a result, we have a lot more high-end cards that are creeping onto the board, things like Hela, things that just want to run those high-value, high-power cards, and then Shang-Chi is going to help you swing those lanes when somebody gets a little bit too greedy. And then the rest of the deck, we can move our cards pretty effortlessly. So we can cap out a lane, have Jean Grey down, we can play elsewhere, and then move cards out of the Jean Grey lane later to be able to compete for it on the final turn of the game. So overall, I've been really enjoying this list. I like the Angela in it because that gives you one scalable piece. You have Craven as another. You have Elsa that's going to make all of your cards potentially scale. And then you have the Thena that's going to be able to get pretty large by the end of the game, especially if you're able to play her on curve. So we're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, next up we have Blink. And at the end of last season, we did end up ranking in the top 100 globally. We were able to steal away an infinite avatar border using the last deck that I featured. So the Doc Ock, the Mill style, one of my favorite decks that's been released in a very, very long time. So the Bifrost is actually pretty good with Craven, and then New York allows us to move those cards back. Really, really nice. So I want to get quite a few cards into the Craven lane so that as he moves over, all of the moves will continue to buff him up. And so we do have Elsa Bloodstone, we have the Fist Bump, we have the Hello. Let's go ahead and do it back. The Onslaught Citadel isn't fantastic for us in the right lane, but it's not awful either. I think we're going to do Angela. I'm going to do Kitty Pryde again. And then next turn, it's going to be something like Elsa Bloodstone plus Kitty Pryde. And Kitty Pryde is just going to continue to scale outrageously. Raven is going to be absolutely a unit in the Bifrost, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So let's go ahead and go with this. We do have Jean Grey to kind of restrict where the opponent can play after this turn. And so they could change this location. They could change the Bifrost so the cards don't shift, but I think it's going to be absolutely fine. So Iron Lad hits a Ravonna, so all of their like Professor X style cards are much cheaper now. They get the double ongoing from the Onslaught Citadel, and they have another Ravonna. So it could be things like Sage, Professor X, could be a Cannonball build. We'll see. Because of that, I think we're a little bit worried about what exactly that entails. So I'm going to do Nightcrawler here. I'm going to do Jean Grey into mid, and I'm going to do Kitty Pryde to the left. Now, I know that doesn't completely cover all of our bases, but I think it's a good start. That's going to restrict them from Professor X. They'll have to play something, either Professor X into mid or something and Professor X on the final turn. So White Tiger is big. Wow. A lot of... Okay, and so it's an on-reveal deck, and then Sage. So I wonder if they have Gilgamesh. That they're looking to like buff up cards with Ironheart and then hit it. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So we do know the 10 power Tiger Spirit is in the left lane. Unfortunately, we didn't draw Thena this turn or this game, but it's not one of those that it's absolutely required. So we could do something like Kitty Pryde here, Shang-Chi in the left lane, keep the right lane as it is, and then that's going to help us swing this one potentially. But we do end up getting the retreat. from just the scalability and how quickly your cards can increase. You have a lot of, even without the disrupt piece of it, Jean Grey definitely helps, but even without the disrupt piece, you're able to get a lot of good things going really quickly. We'll take the one. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Porcupine Eats Corn. The first location is Negative Zone. Now, I don't know if it came with the patch, if it came with the update, but I updated or I opened several of my caches, not the spotlight caches, the regular caches, and I didn't get a single gold ticket. Typically, those are very, very, very plentiful, and I didn't get a single one. So I don't know if maybe they made a stealth change, or maybe I just got really lucky. Probably about 10 to 12 caches that didn't have one contained in it. I'm going to go ahead and play Thena onto the Negative Zone. That way she can continue to scale. After this turn, ooh, Craven is a big one. So I'm going to go ahead and play my Craven into Kunlun as well. But do we want to do it this turn, or do we want to save it for next turn? I think we're going to save it for next. I'm going to do Jean Grey. That way they have to play into Kunlun, making their Craven a little bit less advantageous. And then next turn we could do two-cost cards to enable the Thena bonus. So they have Nocturne. They're going to look to move Nocturne out and change one of the locations. They will have to play into this one, which I think is, for me, very funny. So let's go with an Angela into... I almost want to do Craven into the right location. Either that or we do Craven here, and we focus a little bit more on the cards that I'm going to move into Kunlun. So Jeff and Nightcrawler getting the +2 in this lane. And then plus whatever they get in theirs. I think it's a decent line. Now, if they don't move Nocturne into the Lechugia this turn, then we're just going to be eating rocks. Yeah, we're going to be eating rocks, but so are they. So they move Dagger over. They're pretty close to full. They can move Nocturne, so they can get one additional card into that lane. So my Craven is a little bit less advantageous now, but we have Thena in the left lane. We have Angela in the right. This could be a full Heimdall deck. They could be looking to go with the full-on Heimdall effect. So I think I'm just going to eat a bunch of rocks here. That way we can move additional cards into Kunlun as we need to. And we'll play just the two so that Thena can scale. Dagger comes over, and she is absolutely getting huge. With the double drop, Cosmo is going to stop us from being able to do something like a Shang-Chi. We can't do something like a Juggernaut. Maybe we can hit a Juggernaut into the middle location. Because this will be 3, 4, 5. That brings us up to 11. And so if they move Nocturne out, we're going to play one Rock onto Angela. That's going to help our Thena. Juggernaut, I'm hoping, can hold down this location. Maybe it'll push whatever they play here out. I think they'll move Nocturne over to the left, which is why we moved our Nightcrawler. I'm not sure that it gets the job done because we could be pushing a lot of the heavy power from mid into the Thena lane, where we're definitely going to need a little bit of extra help. But we'll see. It depends on what they play and where they push their Nocturne. So they do end up sticking it out. Is it a full-on Heimdall deck? No, Doctor Strange. Interesting. So with Juggernaut, we're going to push that over into the right. We have the left lane locked in. We have mid locked in. We are going to secure the 4 cubes against the really ramped up Dagger that got played, but we were able to still hold it down, secure the 4 cubes, and that is what I like to see. We have a huge Thena. She would have been 10 power had it not been for the Negative Zone, just from playing how we naturally would. We didn't really have to hamstring ourselves all that much, maybe a rock here or there, but not all that much. We were still able to do the game plan that we would want to do with this deck anyways, while letting her scale exponentially. We'll go ahead and take the 4. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Banta. The first location is the Danger Room, so we're going to avoid that for now. We plan to eventually move some stuff over into that location, whether that be a Vision, a Jeff, something similar. We do have Kitty Pryde, we have Angela, we have Jean Grey to force them to play into our Angela location if that is what we want. I'm going to go ahead and play Angela into mid. We have Craven to push somewhere else so that when we push their cards with something like a Juggernaut, we can get the value from it. And so on this next turn, on turn 3, we plan to do Kitty Pryde plus Craven, and then we can focus on Jean Grey, forcing them and restricting where they can play their cards. So let's go Kitty Pryde, let's go Craven. We're going to start buffing up the Angela. We have the scalable piece of Craven in the right location. And depending on what else we draw, will kind of dictate the rest of the game. If we get movement pieces of our own, other than vision, then maybe we can play those into Angela and then move them out later. But it really, really depends. We do get Jeff, and so we can use Jeff next turn alongside like a Juggernaut to push their card out of the Xandar location and maybe into our Craven lane, especially if it looks like they're trying to stack into a particular lane. So like Professor X, a cannonball play. A lot of those want to play in a specific lane early, and then it gets tough from there. And so they have the Elsa Bloodstone down, they have Nightcrawler, so they are going to be able to move some of their cards as they want to. They have a Kitty Pryde. They gave the smile to the Stegron play. So we do have to the Jean Grey play. We have Vision, which could move over into Danger Room. We have Jeff, which could also move. We also have Stegron here. So we could do Stegron to like slap their Elsa or Hope Summers out of Xandar so that they can't get the benefit of the Elsa Bloodstone. And then we know we have the Juggernaut for the following turn. I think that's what we're going to do. I would like to be able to move a few more cards into the Craven lane, but I think this is fine. Angela's going to really cover this middle location. Stegron slapping maybe their Hope. No, their Nightcrawler. So they will be able to still move the Nightcrawler, even though he's secure in Danger Room. But if they want to move him out, they can. We have a really stacked up middle location. The Vision coming down in mid as well. Craven getting destroyed in the left lane. It looks like a very similar build to what we're running. Every single card except for Hope we've had built into our deck. And so I think we do Kitty Pryde, and then we go ahead and slap the Juggernaut to the right. That would, if they move Vision over, that's 8 for them, but it brings us up to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so we'd be able to offset that. We're assuming that they play here and they can't overcome what we already have. Now they could have a Shang-Chi, they take out our Angela. That's a big deal. But I think this is going to give us a lot of benefit in kind of the reverse Juggernaut play. Not playing it in a way that buffs our Craven, but protecting that Craven lane instead. And so, no, they double drop into mid, and so that is going to be, I think, probably all that she wrote. Shang-Chi coming in big, and I don't think we'll be able to overcome the buff that they had. Had we pushed the Juggernaut there, would have been massive, but unfortunately we did not. We do still, however, win. That is unfortunate that our Kitty Pryde was just above that range once Xandar came in, that we were able to hold down the win. The Thena did not scale that turn because they played, it looks like, 3 cards, the Shang-Chi, the Thena, and Kitty Pryde. But we will gladly take the win where we can. I think they were relying on that last Thena bump, but it does look like a very scary, eerily similar build to what we have. Maybe they dropped Stegron for the Hope Summers instead, but I didn't think our curve was that high enough that we needed it for the Thena line. So we will take the 2 where we can. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Dr. Stink Fartson. And with the first location being Elysium, it's going to be a little bit harder to continually proc our Thena, but I think it's fine. We're going to go ahead and play Thena out onto the board. They have Angela, which is another fantastic one that could be in a Thena style build. And if Mirror Dimension turns out to be the same thing, oh my goodness, this is going to be a high scaling or very cheap card game. So I'm going to go ahead and skip on turn 2, even though we do have Angela. I'm going to skip so we get a little bit better idea what we're working with. And so the vault being in the right location, I kind of like the idea of now doing something like Angela into Jeff, start our scaling process. Next turn, depending on what we draw, we're looking for something cheap, but we'll see. And I guess it also depends on what Mirror Dimension turns into. And so they didn't play anything on turn number 3. Very interesting. So Elysium is the second copy or the duplicate location, so it doesn't matter what cards we get. When we get them, we're going to be able to play a lot of cards out onto the board. I'm going to play Jean Grey, I think, into mid. And then I'm going to play Stegron over to the left. We're going to try to push Angela or Hope Summers. Actually, I'm going to do Jean Grey and then Vision. I want to force them to have to play into the Elysium lane where Angela and Hope Summers, where their scalable pieces aren't going to be located. And so we do have the Vision on the board. Our Thena continues to scale. The Havoc, the Ravona, and the Kitty Pryde come down. So we have to think that they have probably a Cannonball, probably a Professor X as well. And then now we do get Kitty Pryde, which makes it very easy for us to play 2 cards per turn. Let's play Kitty Pryde into mid. We're going to slap one of the cards here out. We're aiming to hit Havoc into one of these other 2 lanes to make sure we have this lane locked in place. We do have a Shang-Chi, but this deck, their cards aren't going to scale high enough, fast enough, and so we're not going to have to worry about that. But we do have to worry about Cannonball, and so maybe we can draw a Juggernaut if we get lucky. We can draw a Juggernaut and displace one of their cards. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like. They do have 4 cards in hand. They have an additional discount from Ravona, and so they can play a lot of things pretty easily onto the board. And so they do spread it out. We have Stegron, which does slap the Havoc over into Elysium, and so now the vault should be safe and secure. It's going to push our Vision, which is fine. We can move him as we need to. Jeff does come down, so they can move that piece, I suppose. But with Thena being here, I don't know if it matters how much their cards scale. They've already dropped the Cannonball, and so now they have to play into Elysium, which they do have the Kitty Pryde. And we do force a retreat. I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to navigate that last turn. Probably leave Jeff in case they moved theirs over. We had the Vision, so maybe move it and just do an all-out focus in mid. I don't know exactly what we were planning to do, but we do end up forcing the retreat. We will gladly take it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Icarus, and with several cards like Vision, even like Stegron, we can slap the opponent's card out of Bar Sinister and into other locations as long as space permits. We can do some weird things with Kitty Pryde. We can have Elsa Bloodstone, where every time we cap out a location, it is 4, 6, 8 additional power onto that card. Just a lot of potential ways that we can position our cards. So even on turn 4, we could do an Elsa Bloodstone into a Nightcrawler, both in Bar Sinister, to get quite a bit of value. Now, it looks like the opponent's running some kind of movement build, which we're running something very similar. If we can get Kraven down, then that's going to be really good in, I'd imagine, Mojo World. But we'll see. Right now, Angela's a decent one. So let's go Angela, let's go Kitty Pryde. We are potentially worried about a Shang-Chi, so we don't want Angela to scale too fast, where it would be within Shang-Chi range, because then they swing Mojo World back as a plus 100. They have Red Guardian coming down before the Angela, before the Kitty Pryde. Thank goodness. We have Jean Grey if we wanted to restrict where they could play, but I'm not sure if that's the right angle for us. We have Juggernaut now. So we could always try for like a last turn push, but they have so many cards that can move around on their own that I'm not sure that that's perfect either. I think this is going to be a really boring, straightforward game. I'm going to play Stegron here this turn. Next turn, it's going to be Vision into Bar Sinister, so we have like 4 roving high power plays. Namora, interesting. So it buffs up their Nightcrawler in the right location. And they have another one that they can use to buff it up further. Or I guess they could buff up Iron Lad now by playing Namora into the right location. Very interesting. But we have Vision coming down in Bar Sinister unless they change it this turn. And that's going to give us a really big push in just that flexible power, where we want that power to reside. So we could always do the Vision. Next turn, we can do like a Juggernaut to push anything that they play into Bar Sinister out. Of course, all of these are space permitting. And so they do move the Nightcrawler over. They throw Namora down, and so Red Guardian in the right lane does get a bonus, but we have our Visions that are jumping across the board. They're going to have advantage going to this last turn. And so Juggernaut is no longer going to be as great in something like Bar Sinister, since it doesn't come down before the card reveals. I'm thinking something like Elsa Bloodstone Juggernaut to push the card out of Mojo World. And it gives a pretty decent scale. It's 3, 4, 5, or we do that scaled by an extra 2. I think I'm going to do something like this. This will bring it up past what their current max is. If they bring Jeff over, we should still be able to win by the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then the 8. I think this is the line we want to go with. That's what we're going to shoot for. We do force the retreat from having just the massive amount of visions that can move around the board. Wasn't a Thena game. It wasn't really even a great movement game, but Bar Sinister being able to duplicate such a versatile card makes it really tough for the opponent to win if they didn't have a way to stop us beforehand. We will take the 1 cube. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Zach, and we do have Thena in hand. Typically, I would do Kitty Pryde first, so we can continue to play her, but so that we can trigger the benefit from the Abbey, I'm going to play Nightcrawler, and then we're going to do Thena after that. That way, every single turn, as we're playing 2 cards, we're just going to naturally help her scale. And so Craven plus Kitty Pryde, we have a lot of value. The Ravona tells me a potential Professor X deck, which I think is okay. I think we're okay against Professor X decks. And then with Nova Roma on top of the Abbey, we have a plethora of cards to use and utilize. I'm going to play Craven to the right. We're going to do Kitty Pryde into negative zone. That's going to let Thena scale. And then we're anticipating, could be, I guess, a Living Tribunal deck, which if so, we have Stegron to kind of displace some of their cards. We have Juggernaut to displace some cards as well. So if they're wanting to stack like Onslaught onto an Iron Man, it becomes a lot tougher to do so. For this turn, I think we're going to go Elsa Bloodstone and then Kitty Pryde. That's going to allow our Kitty Pryde to scale exponentially. We have Thena that's going to continue to scale, and we just get so much benefit from even just the Limbo location. We have Shang-Chi to help us. It does look like a Living Tribunal build. So we're going to have to be careful of when we use our disrupt tools because we have them. Ooh, actually, Jean Grey is almost diabolical. I'm going to go ahead and play Jean Grey into Limbo. We have Jeff that's going to get the scaling. Thena is also going to scale off of this. Next turn, we can do Vision plus Kitty Pryde. On the last turn, maybe it's that we do a Stegron. They're going to have to play into the Limbo location. So stacking onto the Iron Man becomes very tough to do. They wouldn't be able to do Onslaught this turn, and so if they're wanting to, next turn it still becomes very difficult. Now, if they stack a Mystique in that same lane, that may be a mistake, but we'll see. The Mystique comes down into the Nova Roma location, but they're going to have to play their big card in Limbo each and every turn. So this upcoming turn, they have 7 energy, but typically this deck is a very, very high curve. And so I kind of like the idea of going ahead and doing a Stegron. And I'm going to do an Angela and a Stegron because we might as well get some scaling on the Angela and Stegron. And then we can start doing like Kitty Pryde. We have Vision. We have a lot of cards that are going to scale here. So Stegron is going to slap one of these 2. So even if they play 2 cards this turn, still going to be very difficult for them to get whatever they want going. Unless they have a real cheap like 1 cost, maybe they can do it. But we do cap out their right lane. So depending on what this is over here, we'll see. Jubilee. Oh no, that is so unfortunate. The Stegron comes down and slaps a card to block the Jubilee play. They do have 12 power over there, but that's very very limited in how much it's going to be able to provide for the game. I think we just do I think we finish this one out by doing like a Vision. We'll do Kitty Pryde here. That's going to scale quite a bit. We have Vision, and then I'm going to go ahead and move these 2 cards over. We're going to get the benefit from Craven, get the benefit here. Thena is going to continue to scale, so she's an absolute beast, coming in at, what, 16 power after this turn? Yeah, we disrupt their play enough that we do force the retreat. Just that is what this deck wants to do. It doesn't have very many direct or hard counters, but if you know the typical playline that the opponent is wanting to go with, a lot of times you can disrupt it enough that they can't find those opportune plays. We are going to go ahead and take that win, and that is where we're going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope that you enjoyed it. I am very, very impressed with Thena coming in. She's fairly flexible, so if you use a build that naturally wants to use Kitty Pryde plus some higher cost cards, not something like a bounce, she fits in perfectly. We're going to go ahead and end it. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope that you guys enjoyed. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.